Milo Munster. Hey everybody. For those of you that are just joining us, my goal here is to recount the emotions and the mental state and all the things that I was going through but just following my wife's passing. She passed away January 16th, and I happened to keep very detailed notes. I was writing a journal at the time to help me process my emotions. And one of the things that Brittany always wanted to do was to be able to help people and show people the reality of cancer by uploading our journey. So my goal here is much the same. I am continuing to upload my journey after her passing to show what the other side of cancer looks like. To show grief in the reality for those left behind. So, picking up where we left off, February 6th is the next journal entry. February 6th, 2023. And I wrote that I was asked to go to her memorial in Arkansas. February 11th was going to be Brittany's second memorial. She would have two. I had a memorial service for my wife on February, it would have been January 31st, January 30th, somewhere in there. Does January have a 31st? I don't know. Anyway, the end of January, I had a service for my wife, and her family had a second service for her in Arkansas, for all the people who couldn't make it down to Louisiana, for one. Well, no, just for all the people that couldn't make it down to Louisiana for her memorial service. Something closer, something for all the people who knew her at that time, when she still lived in Arkansas, which put me in a very precarious situation. I was emotionally distraught. I was not in a healthy place mentally, but I really wanted to be there for my wife and for her memorial service. But I already had a memorial service, and I really struggled with that for a long time, a very long time. I just wanted to be there for her. I just wanted to connect with those family members. But this memorial service would be with people, 90% of whom I had never met. I would be the odd man out. I would be the person sitting there who did not know Brittany during the time that they had spoken, that they had known her. Like, seriously, okay, they were all from Arkansas. They were all from her high school and her relatives that I had never met, and stuff like that. So I was in a position where I wanted to go, but I felt like I had just was beginning to close up that wound. I had intentionally put a bandage on the wound that was open, and I was hoping for healing. And I felt like this service would be more painful for me. It would be more damaging for me mentally, psychologically, and would literally be aggravating a wound that I had just placed a bandage on. And I know I struggled a lot because I felt exhausted. I just spent all this time taking care of her and giving her a memorial service and doing right by her, and now I would have to do it again. So I told Gran and her father that I wanted to go, but I wasn't sure if I could. I had to make a decision quick because while I'm writing this on February 6th, which was a Monday at the time, the 11th would have been her second memorial. So I had 5 days to make a decision and make the drive. So I struggled. One of the biggest things that I think I struggled with was knowing that while Brittany had come to terms with these family members, she had forgiven and been forgiven and began to love these people. Began to love this family of hers whom she had ran away from. She escaped. And I struggled with knowing that I would be there in a place where she ran from, celebrating a time of her life with people, but that time was the exact thing she ran from. It was the reason why she ran. It was, she escaped Arkansas and came down here. And the celebration of life in Arkansas would be celebrating the life that she had in that place. So I was really conflicted. I was very, very torn. And I didn't know what to do. I felt I struggled. And I know she had reconciled with all of this, and I'm so grateful to the family that I've met and I've fallen in love with, and I've had some amazing times with them, and they've shared endless love with me that they didn't have to, and I'm aware of that. But at that time, I felt like I needed to protect myself, my brain, my emotional status. I just felt I needed to protect myself from essentially emotional turmoil. The next journal entry that I have is on February 8th, which is a Wednesday. I spoke to a friend at work who made me realize 3 vital points. The first one was I served my wife well by the memorial that I had here. So my duty as a husband was done. Like, I did my duty. I did my due diligence. Number two, the reactions of others are not my responsibility. I couldn't stop people's thoughts. People will have them. I couldn't stop the choices they make or the things they say. I couldn't. My presence there might censor some of them. Maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't. But ultimately, I'm not responsible for that. I'm not. I'm responsible for me and myself and my actions. And my actions were to have a memorial for my wife. And thirdly, if this was going to cause more harm to me than good, then it was a responsible thing for me to not go. And when my friend told me this, I just kind of sat there thinking about it for a while, and I was just blown away. Like, it just seems so simple. Like this is something that my therapist has said, and I've heard it a billion times, but it's not. It takes someone else telling you sometimes for it to sink in. So I think out of all the things that I experienced and all the things that happened, that suggestion, that advice that she gave me helped me decide that I had done my job. If I wanted to boil down doing my due diligence for Brittany as a job, if I wanted to boil it down that way. But I had done right by her, by the memorial that I had for her. And it would be okay if I didn't go. And I held on to that because that was something that I needed to hear. It was something that really stuck with me. And I made my decision. I called Gran and I called her various other family members and told them, I'm sorry, but I can't go. And I know I made the right choice for me. I made the right choice. And if other people have a problem with that, then that's their reaction, and I can't be responsible for your reactions. I did what was right by her and by me. I can't imagine that this type of emotional situation and feelings would be fairly common among those who are going through a memorial service to a close friend, a funeral for a close friend or family. What is our job? What is our service to them? How much do we do? I think that falls to every person to kind of make that decision. You know the loved one, and you know what they would want. Do right by them. If I can give my advice would be do right by them. And remember that others' reactions are not your responsibility. It's good life advice too. So, additionally in my notes, I write, I have been asking God for an answer about whether or not I should go to the memorial, and this felt like an answer to me. It had that gravity, that finality to it that was just like, oh, this is the answer. This is what I felt. So I honestly felt like I was tapped on the shoulder by God in that moment. Like, you're okay. Breathe. And I think it's easy for us to get lost in the emotion of the moment, to forget that while we are grieving, we still serve a righteous and mighty God who cares about us and who loves us and who answers prayers still. February 9th, one of Brittany's uncles calls me to check on me. It's a couple days before the memorial service, and he asks if I'm going, and I tell him, no, I'm not going. And he says that's okay, that he loves me, and he wanted to do me a favor, so he sent me 2 books, one of which I've read, one of which is really hard for me. First one is called A Grief Observed. Now, the reason I keep looking over my shoulder is because I literally have them both right here on my countertop. The first one's called A Grief Observed by C.S. Lewis. It has C.S. Lewis, great writer, great Christian writer, and he experienced a great loss. His wife died of cancer, and he writes about his grieving. 4 or 5 separate times he comes to this journal and just writes, kind of like what I was doing. And it's him walking through the emotions of grief and talking to God and asking, why does bad things happen to good people? The same question that me and Brittany have been searching for and walking through and looking at the entire time we were going through our trials, going through our cancer journey. C.S. Lewis walked through the same journey and writes about it, and oh my gosh, his faith comes so close to the brink. I mean, it looks like he just throws his hands up and goes, I'm done with you, God. Like why? Like, are you even real? And the last chapter in the book, he's like, yeah, I know you're real. And yeah, I believe you. And I think that's one of the things that Brittany's father says, and I keep remembering it over and over again, and it's something that sticks with me, is that you can be angry with God and still love him. You can be angry with God, and that's okay. His shoulders are big enough to carry that because he still loves you. You can be angry with your parents and still love them, and they'll still love you. Anger does not mean that your relationship ends. And I think A Grief Observed is a really, really intense look at that developing anger whenever, I mean, I've walked the same path. I thought, man, at a certain point, I thought, man, I'm bad, but I'm not this bad. A few months later, I got that bad. Shoot, maybe it was weeks later. I don't know. But I got this bad. I got worse than C.S. Lewis did. So I came out on the other side. My love for God still stands. But it was an important book for me. And I'm forever thankful that he sent me this one. And I'm forever thankful that I read this one first. Because the other one, The other one is called A Path Through Suffering. Every time I put my thumb on the thing. By Elizabeth Elliot. Essentially, her husband goes into the Congo on a mission trip. Or is it Congo? I'm not sure. I'd have to really look at it again. But her husband goes on a missionary trip and gets killed by the people he went to go mission to, bring the gospel to. And it's her walk through grief. And the title is literally A Path Through Suffering. It is her dealing with those emotions and her experiences. I've read maybe one page. I can't do it yet. I just can't. Here I am 10 months away from, or 10 months out of Brittany's passing, and I still can't pick this book up. I'm giving it time before I do. Yeah. Finally, my next journal entry is February 11th, the day of Brittany's memorial. And my writing is very, very direct to the point. Usually I can be flowery and I meander in my thoughts and I wander around, but my writing is so direct, it's just raw. I just wrote her memorial, period. I received lots of text and calls from people, period. Brittany's phone continues to ding even to this day, period. On this day, I pushed the second video live, period. So for those of you that have been following along, you know that these videos, we're on episode 97, 98 now, I'm not sure. But these videos started a week before this moment that I'm talking about. I pushed episode 17 live. So we're on 96, 97. So it's really weird looking back at this, knowing that that's how many videos I've posted since then. It feels like a lifetime ago. But I'm really glad that I did. About the 11th, I received a bunch of phone calls and texts and love from up in Arkansas, even though I chose not to go. And I think the hardest part was Brittany's phone going off all day long. It really was hard. I muted it, but every now and again I would look over and see it light up. So that's up to the 11th. I've got more that I want to talk about, but I think that kind of fills up the space for this video. In my own personal life, I just had a doctor's appointment, which everything seems to be pretty good. I seem to be okay. But it still took a lot out of me. It was maybe my second doctor's appointment, maybe my third since Brittany passed. And it's my primary physician was Brittany's primary physician, and I've yet to see him. Every time I go in, he's either busy or not there. And I want to see him. I want to talk to him. I don't know if it's just a happenstance that he hasn't seen me yet, or if maybe he's suffering too. If you look back to episode, I think 85, 84, 85. Or maybe it's one where me and Brittany are on the couch and her father joins us for a video. And she talks about the experience that they had at the doctor, and the doctor prayed with them and loved on her and said that, you know, he prays for her every night because Brittany reminds him of his daughter, because he's got a daughter roughly the same age. So I know he is emotionally connected to all this as well. So I don't want to make it seem like, oh, this is definitely what he's doing. I don't know if that's what he's doing or not, but I'd probably avoid Me Too. And if he's not avoiding me, well, I get it. You're a busy man. Doctors are busy. But I don't know. He probably doesn't watch this, so it doesn't matter. But anyway, my doctor's appointment went okay, and I'm sure I'll have, you know, some updates going forward. But anyway, that's enough for this video. Thank you guys for following me along, and if there's anybody new, welcome to the channel. Myers out.